everyone. My name is Adrienne Allen, and I am a junior criminal justice major attending Hampton University. Thank you for all attending the Your Vote, Your Voice event hosted by Ambition Overcomes Adversities, Action Speaks, and Politics. All student run organizations who are doing everything that they can to spread awareness and to give back to communities who are most in need. Our voice matters and our vote matters. We are living right now in a climate where our democracy is being tampered with, but I believe with collective work and responsibility, I believe that we can make change in our communities. The purpose of this event is to talk to influential leaders and change makers who are currently doing the work that needs to be done in our communities to make change, to uncover if our vote really matters and what can we do to be involved, and most importantly, to show that this pandemic not only affects our health and wellness, but it is a pandemic across the board that was mismanaged by our current presidential leadership. This virus has affected our education systems, our social lives, and families economically across the nation. Overall, this pandemic has turned our lives upside down in so many ways. No matter where our panelists are from and the people that they represent, I hope that we can all take something from the end of this night and apply it to our own communities because change is a group effort. So first, we would love to hear our opening remarks from State Senator Vincent Hughes. State Senator Vincent Hughes is, Pennsylvania. State Senator Vincent Hughes is a leading and progressive voice on the local and state level and on national issues. His colleagues elected him to be the Democratic chairman for the Senate Appropriations Committee in 2010, and he continues to bring proactive leadership to that role. Senator Hughes has served the Commonwealth as a member of the Pennsylvania Senate for more than 20 years. He has served, he was first elected to represent the 7th Senatorial District in 1999. Previously serving as a member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives from 1987 to 1994. During that time, he was a chairman of the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus from 1991 to 1994. As a key member of the Senate's Democratic leadership team, Senator Hughes is a champion for major policy issues such as expanding health care for low-income workers, raising the minimum wage, and defending the right to vote, most importantly, and fighting for increased funding for our public education systems, and also rebuilding the state's distressed communities. As Democratic chairman of Senate Appropriations Committee, Senator Hughes holds a major role in developing Pennsylvania's annual budget of nearly $34 billion, carefully guiding the state's spending priorities. As you can see, Senator Hughes has done so much influential work in our community, so I'm going to now introduce you to Senator Vincent Hughes for our opening remarks.
Hey, Adrienne, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well today. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Glad to be with you and everybody is watching. Let me just thank the team that pulled this together, led by my superstar, Adrienne Allen, and everyone who's participating. It really is important that we continue to have these conversations and they become more relevant as we get closer in to an important decision that's got to be made on Tuesday, November 3rd. And let's also be mindful that people are engaged, people are voting as we speak. Millions of people across this country have already voted and are making their decisions right now prior to voting on November 3rd. There's a lot that I could say about why this is important. We'll start from one perspective, and that perspective is the fact that so many people are spending so much money to try to stop people from voting, and especially Black and brown people from voting. And what I mean by they're spending so much money, I'm talking about not thousands of dollars, not millions of dollars, but they're literally spending billions of dollars and utilizing every platform that they have available to them in their power spectrum to curtail the right to vote, specifically focused on Black and brown folks. That is that should be the key message, or that should be the opening message that folks understand about why your vote is important, because people are trying to stop you from utilizing it, from extra long lines at the polling place to discarding ballots, to just making it extremely difficult and providing significant levels of confusion are part of some of the tactics, just some of the tactics that are being utilized to prevent especially Black and brown folks from voting. But also just understand this, that those who we put in office control and have an impact on every aspect of our lives. It's said that from the time you're born, you get a state issued birth certificate, sanctioned and authorized by some elected official. To the time that you die, your family receives a state sanctioned death certificate. Government is in your life from beginning to end. We control how much money is invested in our schools. We control our healthcare system. We control the wages that folks get paid. We control who comes into this country. We control who can leave this country. We control, as Adrian said, how we deal with this most devastating pandemic that we're involved in right now. So just to keep it short, your voice, in fact, is embodied in your vote. And we cannot allow anyone to snatch our vote and consequently snatch our vote from us. We cannot turn over one aspect of our power stream. We've got a lot of aspects. We've got a lot of different ways that we can evidence power. We cannot allow this vote, this point of power, to be taken away from us. We must utilize it, and we must utilize it in full effect. How important is one individual vote? Let me just say this. In 2016, the race for president of the United States of America was won in the state of, I believe it was Michigan, by 10,000 votes out of millions of votes that were cast. And you see what happened as a result of that election. You see the hell that we've gone through over the last 4 years as a result of that election. In Pennsylvania, the state was won by the current occupier of the White House by 44,000 votes out of millions of votes that were cast in the state of Pennsylvania. Wisconsin, similar numbers as well. So all of this should be an indicator that your one individual vote, the representation of your voice, has power, has meaning, has impact, and must be utilized. The history dictates it, from the deaths of Swerner, Goodman, and Cheney in the Deep South as a result of them just advocating for the right to vote 50 some odd years ago, to the history and the story of John Lewis, who begged all of us to get into good trouble, especially around the right to vote, he and his friends and just plain ordinary folks were choosing to march to the state capitol in Alabama, Montgomery. And when they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge, they were beaten brutally. Those stories are real, should never be forgotten, and should fuel us to make sure that we utilize our voice and allow our voice in this moment to be represented by our vote. If you don't use your vote, you face the threat of losing your vote, as the attempts to take away and dismantle the Voting Rights Act that was passed and signed into law in 1965 slowly been whittled away, especially in the last several years. We know that it matters. We must utilize it because it impacts not just us, but it impacts our broader community, and it impacts the generations behind us. So I'll end right there, Adrian. I'm available to answer any questions you might have. As you know, Adrian, I could go on for quite some time, but I won't. I'll just close it out right there. Be around for any questions, as I said, that you might have. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you for convening this conversation, and let's push this out. Let's not lose our voice. Let's use our voice, and let's use our voice this time in the right to vote. Let's get it done.
Thank you so much for that, Senator Hughes. That was great. It is very important to go out there and vote, definitely, because, you know, our voice matters and our vote definitely matters, just like he emphasized. So now we're going to go into the next segment of our event. My lovely co-host is going to come on and introduce the next guest, Dr. Delina Wardlaw and Dr. Elena McDonald. So why don't you hop in and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are.
So hello, everyone. I hope you guys are all having an excellent evening. My name is Nina Pinto. I am a junior psychology pre-medicine major, hailing all the way from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I have the distinguished honor of introducing our next guests. And just a brief intro on them. Dr. Delina Wardlaw is half of the dynamic duo that is Twin Sister Docs, created with her identical twin sister, Dr. Elena McDonald, to promote health, wellness, and self-advocacy. Both sisters are board-certified physicians from the Philadelphia area and practice within the specialties of family medicine and pediatrics. As motivational speakers, expert medical consultants, and mentors, they have used their local and national platforms to spread awareness about health disparities of the minority communities they serve. Their mission is described by the 3 T's: trusted messengers that translate to action, leading to transformational outcomes. They are firm believers that culturally sensitive, accurate medical information empowers and motivates individuals to become active participants, not just in their own health outcomes, but their community's overall outcomes as well. Twin Sister Docs have participated in volunteer efforts to continue COVID-19 testing in areas disproportionately affected by the virus, and they continue to provide weekly updates on their radio show. And like I said before, it is my absolute honor to introduce Dr. Delina Wardlaw and her twin sister, Dr. Elena McDonald.
Hello. Hi, Nina. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Thank you. It's so great to have you guys. So we're going to just jump right into it. So question number 1 is, what exactly is coronavirus? What are the symptoms, and how often should people be getting tested?
So I'll start, Dr. Wardlaw here. Coronavirus is a respiratory virus that it is contracted by droplets, by people sneezing, by people coughing, by people talking loudly. You can pass droplets and spread it to other people. In addition to that, sometimes it's also it has been stated that it can be spread through the air. It can be airborne. That's when the droplets become much, much smaller, and that they can stay in the air longer instead of falling to the ground, and then they can spread further distances. So that is how coronavirus is spread. Coronavirus, we initially heard about it we started hearing about it in the beginning of January, but it initially started at the end of 2019. So the name coronavirus is also known as COVID-19 because coronavirus is not a new virus. It is the novel coronavirus now because it is a mutated form of coronavirus that we have seen previously that can cause symptoms like a common cold and is nowhere nearly as contagious, as deadly as COVID-19. So that's what coronavirus is. That's how it is spread. Symptoms of coronavirus can include mild symptoms. It could be a persistent cough. It could be fevers. It could be loss of taste, loss of smell. It could be shortness of breath. It could be fatigue. It could be unexplained diarrhea. It could be a multitude of symptoms that ironically mimic the flu on a lot of occasions, right? But the thing about coronavirus is that sometimes it will develop, complications will develop, and then that will lead to severe conditions such as pneumonia, respiratory distress or failure. Sometimes it can lead to renal failure. It can cause blood clots, which can lead to strokes, and ultimately it can lead to death. So coronavirus it's here. We've all been facing it for the last 8 to 9 months, and we are trying to mitigate this virus and slow the spread of the virus. And I'll let Dr. McDonald talk about how we need to do that.
Yes, so as Dr. Wardlaw said, we know it is spread through droplets through the air. So the main ways to prevent the spread of coronavirus today is to absolutely wear your mask at all times. Number 2, make sure you are properly social distancing. Social distancing has to be at least 6 feet apart when you're around people who do not live in your household. And you want to make sure you're washing your hands frequently. We currently do not have a cure or a vaccine for coronavirus. So we want to prevent the spread by taking those measures every day. Dr. Wardlaw also talked about the symptoms, but we've also learned that there are many people who are asymptomatic. So some people are carrying this virus and they do not know it. So we really have to operate in a manner that you have to assume that everyone that you come in contact with could potentially be carrying this virus. So that means you should be wearing your mask at all times. The purpose of the mask is you wear your mask to protect others. Other people wear their mask to protect you. So we're all in this together. So everyone must do their role, take personal accountability to try to prevent the spread until we have an effective vaccine available.
Yes. Take accountability, y'all. Wear your masks.
Absolutely.
All right. So the next question that personally I have is, especially since restaurants, bars, school, like a lot of social businesses have been opening back up, do we still necessarily need to quarantine? Like, what is the purpose of quarantining and also contact tracing? Like, how have those really been helping out in terms of slowing down the spread of this virus?
Okay, so quarantine, and yes, we do have to quarantine. Now, we're not under lockdown the way we were in the first couple of months of this virus. However, what quarantine means is if you are directly exposed to someone who has tested positive for coronavirus, you should quarantine. That means that you should stay in your home for 14 days, because we do know that people could have coronavirus and not develop symptoms and or test positive within the first couple of days of having the virus. So this is why it's important for people to quarantine if you have a direct contact with someone who has a positive coronavirus test, or if you yourself are exhibiting symptoms and once you talk to your physician or a healthcare provider, you talk to them and they give you instructions on to quarantine, meaning to stay in your home to try to prevent the spread to someone else. So,
and I just want to make a clarification, because you will hear the terms isolation versus quarantining. So if you are the person who tests positive, you are isolating. You're isolating even from people who live in your home. If you can, you're essentially isolating to your room. And then the person's in your home, because they've had direct contact with you, they are quarantining. So if you're positive, you're isolating. If you've been exposed to someone who's positive, you are quarantining. And that's the big difference between isolation and quarantine.
Got it. All right.
Now, so, restaurants and the bars, if you're out and about, you should be social distancing. Bars should not be allowing people to congregate really up at the bar in close quarters, because you are not social distancing. So you have to be pretty wise when you go out. And remember, as an adult, even if someone's not reminding you, we've been doing this long enough. We all know the rules. Please, please, please wear your mask. Remind your friends, put on your mask. Remind your siblings, your parents, your grandparents. Everybody must play their role as we try to fight this deadly virus.
And can I mention something, Nina? We also have to be careful with large events. That has also been an issue of spreading this virus. So, we have to be careful. We have to be mindful. People at college campuses, weddings are super spreader events. Funerals tend to be super spreader events when the crowds are not controlled. We just saw a White House super spreader event. So again, we have to be very mindful of these things, and we, as Dr. McDonald said, we all have to take accountability. We know the rules of engagement at this time. And we all know that. I mean, it's been stated repeatedly, and we just have to make sure that we're all being held accountable for what we do, because again, so coronavirus can affect anybody. It does not discriminate. However, it does affect African Americans disproportionately for several reasons, for reasons that exist because of systematic failures that have been in place for years. Okay, lack of access to care. Not having the trust in the medical system, not being able to be diagnosed in a timely manner to control chronic illnesses in a proper fashion. So these are the things that, and also with us, many of us being essential workers, not having the ability to be able to work remotely or to work from home. We have to go out and be exposed to the community. So those are things that have driven these disproportionate rates. However, I must say again, coronavirus does not discriminate. Anybody can get it. We just saw the most powerful person in the United States contract coronavirus. Okay, so it does not discriminate. So we all have to be careful. We all have to be concerned about taking it home to our grandparents, taking it home to our parents. So we just have to be mindful and all having a care for what's going on here.
And to my college students, if you're going home for Thanksgiving, the last thing you want to do is be hanging out at parties on your college campus and you take this virus home to your family. So please be very careful.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Now, especially since you both have done such incredible work around COVID-19 testing, what really made you want to start doing COVID-19 testing, especially in communities that are so just battered by this virus? And what has it been like working on the front lines of this pandemic?
So Dr. McDonald and I have been working in communities that have been underserved for our entire careers. We've been in medicine for the last 20 years, and our commitment is to serving communities that are underserved, that don't have access to the resources that other communities have access to. So when coronavirus came upon us and the opportunity to do volunteer testing was presented to us, it was a no-brainer for us. We stepped up to the plate to provide the testing. And we were providing testing in neighborhoods similar to the neighborhoods that we grew up in. We're native Philadelphians. We grew up in the Strawberry Mansion section of the city. And so that city, that area of the city has a high poverty rate. So many of our the people who we were going out testing were just like our neighbors, our family members, because we those are the areas that we are from. That's why Dr. McDonald and I are so passionate about making sure that our people get the quality care that they deserve. So when that opportunity presented itself, we stepped right up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still and we not only did we provide the testing in the community, our focus also is to, as we're back in our offices, to make sure that our job is to make sure we keep you healthy, because coronavirus has shown that people who are in better health tend to fare better if they contract this virus. They don't develop the complications. They may not develop the complications, because we have seen some healthy people develop complications and die as well. But you're at higher risk for developing complications and or experiencing death if you are in poor health or if you're chronic conditions. And when I say chronic conditions, I mean conditions that are there over a significant period of time, whether it's diabetes, asthma, chronic obstructive lung disease, kidney disease, heart disease. So these are conditions that require medications and require visits to your physician's office, to require monitoring on a regular basis. It's not like a cold is here one day and then 10 days later it's gone. So it's a chronic illness. So our job, what Dr. McDonald and I do, is we are educating the community, investing in the community so that they can become active participants, so they can have these conditions diagnosed, have them maintained and treated in a proper fashion, so that when these crises emerge upon us, then we are better equipped to be able to deal with it.
Right, because we were the African-American community, the data has shown we were slammed by coronavirus. So our goal is that now when we know better, we must do better. So as we move forward and we try, and we get on the other side of this pandemic, hopefully this is a once in a lifetime pandemic. We will not see the likes of a pandemic like this again. However, we want to make sure that our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren are adequately prepared should another pandemic come around of this significance.
Amen to that. Especially since during this pandemic, we've seen a lot of upheaval when it comes to our lawmakers and the handling of the pandemic. Do you both believe that lawmakers have done enough during this time? And in your opinion, especially with the upcoming election, what exactly is at stake in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic and the handling of it with the new election cycle?
Everything is at stake with the upcoming election. The leadership has failed us when it comes to the management of this pandemic. Even from the national level down to the state level, we need a national mandate. We need a national mandate for everyone to wear masks. We know that mask is the number one way to slow the spread of this virus at this point in time. Wearing a mask, and it's very cheap, okay? It doesn't cost much to wear a mask, but it can cost you everything, including your life, if you do not wear a mask. So our leadership, they did not put things in place. Once we started to realize the mammoth of a problem that we were dealing with, then there should have been things put in place to streamline testing, to mandate mask wearing in order to try to mitigate the spread of this virus. To date, we have over 220,000 people who have died from this virus. So, leadership could have significantly decreased these numbers if we have proper leadership.
And leadership can still step up and lead in an effective manner. However, sometimes these things, the way they've chosen to manage this situation they have not followed the recommendations of the experts. They have not followed the recommendations of the scientists. They have not followed the recommendations of the physicians. So when you have leadership that does this, and there are some people still think that coronavirus is a hoax, then they take that and run with it. So again, the leadership has to put out clear, accurate information and follow the guidelines of the scientists and of the physicians. And we have not seen that happen on a consistent basis from our leadership. So in regards to your question to the election, we have to vote as if our lives depend on it, because it really does. It really does.
So November 3rd, we need everyone to make sure you have voted. Many states are doing early voting. I put my ballot in the mail 2 weeks ago. About 5 days later, I got an email confirmation confirming that my ballot had in fact been received. So I took the option to vote by mail. Dr. Wardlaw did early voting, but she actually went to a polling place to make sure that her vote is counted. Your vote is your voice. If you want to see change, now is the time. Not only during this national presidential election, but during the midterm elections. We see what's happening in the Supreme Court right now. That Supreme Court decision is being made by the Senate. Okay, you need to vote in the midterm elections. You need to vote every chance that you get. Our ancestors died for the opportunity for us to vote.
Yes, y'all heard it here first. The Twin Sister Docs told you to get your behinds to the polls, mail in the ballots. Now, our last question, especially as an aspiring medical professional, will soon to be one day, especially for people who really want to make a difference and who still want to help to fight this pandemic. what are some ways and possibly even what's your call to action for people who still want to help?
Well, one, you can help in many ways. One, set an example. Your entire group here, you are leaders at your school. Set an example. Make sure that you are encouraging folks to follow the guidelines that have been in place to mitigate the spread of this virus. Two, you can volunteer. Health departments are asking for people to help contact trace, where people who have tested positive for coronavirus, the health department will contact people who will contact the person who's tested positive to find out who they have been in contact with, so they can notify people who have been exposed to coronavirus so that they can do the quarantine, so that we can slow the spread of the virus and not spread it to other people. You have to make sure that you are not gathering in large gatherings. I mean, we know that tends to happen on college campuses, and you can be involved in where are you guys at again, Nina?
We're at Hampton University.
Okay, so
yeah, Hampton decided to actually have us at home. So
okay, so you're online.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then and you can even talk to your local representatives. You could talk to like Senator Hughes. Senator Hughes has been absolutely fantastic with orchestrating, getting messages out about not only voting, but also about coronaviruses, resources that are available. You guys can contact your local government offices to see what positions are available there. And just make sure, again, you can do voter registration is over now because that boat has sailed. But just encouraging your family and friends to make sure that they get out and vote. But also one of the biggest calls to action is making sure that you take care of your health, making sure that you see your physician, making sure that as physicians, we don't only want to see you when you're having a problem. We want to see you what we call preventive visits so that we can evaluate you, make sure that we are keeping an eye on things before big problems develop. So that is one of the biggest calls of actions that we can do, everybody can do, because again, managing our health has proven to provide some level of protection from complications from coronavirus.
And one other piece of advice I want to put out there. We always talk about the large gatherings and going into events where you may not know persons.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the biggest issues that we're having is that we tend to let our guard down around people that we know and we trust. So our friends, our family, our coworkers that we see all the time, but if we are moving and going back to different locations, we're all potentially exposing ourselves to the virus. So you have to continue to operate in a manner that anyone that you come in contact with could have this virus. So you must protect yourself. You must protect your families.
One other call to action, Miss Nina. Get a flu shot. Okay. Flu season is upon us. Okay. Again, we have thousands of deaths. We have millions of cases of the flu every year in the United States. We have thousands of deaths. Well, we have a vaccine for the flu. One thing I would like to say, you cannot get the flu from the flu vaccine. So please do not let that be a reason for you not to get the flu vaccine. We're in a season now that we've never seen before. Flu and COVID together. You do not want to be that unfortunate person to get both of those, okay? So please, please, please make sure you get your flu vaccine, because the flu vaccine does save lives as well.
Absolutely.
Well, y'all heard it here first. We got some incredible information from Dr. Wardlaw and Dr. McDonald. Thank you guys so much for coming on today. I learned a lot. I'm going to take this and use it. Oh, yes. But thank you so much for answering our questions. And Adrian, it's right back to you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I am so sorry. I was talking this whole time and y'all couldn't hear me. This is why internet is dangerous. Okay, so sorry for that difficulty. Next, we're going to introduce to you Representative Malcolm Kenyatta. He was elected to serve as state representative for the 181st District in Philadelphia County in 2018. He is a product of the Philadelphia public school system, and he graduated from Temple University and Harvard's Kennedy School's senior executive in state and local government. He currently serves as vice chair of the Philadelphia House delegation, as a member of the governor's task force on suicide prevention, and holds a host of committee leadership positions. As the first openly LGBTQ person of color and one of the youngest members elected to the PA General Assembly, he is deeply committed to creating an equitable and inclusive society. Again, as a legislator, he has championed proposals to address generational poverty, raise the minimum wage, and protect workers' rights, increase access to mental health care, and enact common sense measures to address gun violence and strengthen our digital infrastructure. Again, sorry, Representative Malcolm Kenyatta was not able to come speak to us in person, but he did leave us with some words of wisdom, and we're going to play his video right now. So introducing Representative Malcolm Kenyatta.
Hey everybody, this is State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, and I so wish I could be with Adrian and the entire team that's put together this event. This is an important conversation, and I'm just so grateful that you all are stepping up to host it. So we have 8 days until one of the most consequential elections the United States has ever seen. A big part of the outcome of that is going to be about what we do right now, about what each of us do. And this is not just about electing a candidate or candidates. This is about whether or not we're going to move forward with the type of common sense reforms around our criminal justice system, around policing, around education, around equity, around equality, housing, healthcare. That's really what's on the line. You know, I'll tell you this, if just locking folks up made us safer, then we'd be the safest country in the world, because we lock up more people per capita than any industrialized country in the world. Our criminal justice system, or our injustice system, as I'm prone to call it, it doesn't work. It's broken. And we've taken an approach that costs a lot of money, doesn't produce a lot of effective results, and leaves all of our communities worse off, particularly folks who are Black and brown. And so reforming that system, making it so that officers pulling somebody over on the road, that doesn't end in somebody being murdered extrajudicially. Having a process by which when people pay their debt to society, that they're not on probation for the rest of their lives, or, you know, put into a position where they have violated their probation just by being late to a meeting or having a hot urine sample come back. We need to have a system that invests in people on the front end, that invests in quality education. So when you do all the things right, when you go to school, do everything right, that you're not saddled with so much student debt that you're not able to start your life and pursue your dreams. So this is a moment for all of us to use our voices. No matter who you vote for, make sure you get out there and vote. Make sure you vote up and down the ticket. Because I hear people who sometimes say to me, you know, Malcolm, I don't do politics. And I like to remind those folks that politics does you. Politics does you. And what we do over the next couple of days is going to determine what not only our future looks like, but the future of all the young people coming behind us, whether or not folks who are a little bit older than us are going to be able to retire with dignity and decency. All of that is on the line. And so, again, I want to thank Adrian. I want to thank the entire team that put this together. Take care of yourself. Wear a mask. God bless you. And, let's go out here and win an election.
Thank you so much, Representative, for those remarks. We are going to move on to our Powerhouse Youth. So we have 2 youth in the building, and I'm going to let my other co-host go and introduce who these people are. But we are going to start off with Tamir D. Harper. So my other co-host is going to come on right now and introduce you to Tamir.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yordano Spalina, and I am a junior journalism major from Montgomery County, Maryland, and I am currently studying at Hampton University. And this evening, I have the privilege of introducing you to Tamir Harper. So let's get to know him a little better. At 20 years old, Tamir is a nonprofit exclusive and outspoken advocate for public education and a student. Tamir D. Harper is a proud product of the School District of Philadelphia and is now a junior at the American University in Washington, D.C. At American, Tamir is part of the award-winning Frederick Douglass Distinguished Scholars Program while studying strategic communication with a minor in education. Tamir is a speaker, advocate, reformer, and a proud education nerd. Harper's work has granted him the opportunity to meet our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, to sit on a panel of the U.S. Department of Education concerning teacher diversity, and to represent students that attend underserved and underfunded schools across the country. His advocacy has been included in the Washington Post, Time Magazine, and Newsly. Tamir is also the proud co-founder and chief of Herb Ed, Inc., a student-led, student-oriented nonprofit that advocates for a quality and efficient urban education. Everyone, welcome Tamir Harper. It's an honor.
It's an honor to be here. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I am well.
I'm glad. I forgot to mention I am a nonprofit owner. We have the privilege of hosting, partnering with Adrian to do this. Action Speaks is my nonprofit. So it's really just amazing to have you here and have somebody my age to look up to and see the work that you do for your community.
We're in this together, trying to figure it out each day.
Yes. Okay, so my first question for you is, what was the significance of creating your nonprofit organization, Herb Ed, and what drives your purpose to be an educator?
Yeah, so as my bio said, I'm a proud product of the School District of Philadelphia. And I say proud, even though I've seen the good, bad, and ugly of the school district. So I've went to my neighborhood schools for my Philly folks. I'm from Southwest Philly, which Tilton and Bartram are my neighborhood schools, and Morton Elementary. And going through those different school systems helped me see that we have a severe inequity across the board. Senator Vince Hughes is famous for walking to Lower Merion, from Overbrook High School to Lower Merion, and clearly saying and seeing that our schools are underfunded. Lower Merion has state-of-the-art building, while our students in the School District of Philadelphia are walking into buildings that have asbestos and lead throughout them. So I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I decided to do something about it. And I have 2 handsome nephews who are in 3rd grade right now, who I refuse to allow to go through this same broken system without doing something. I'm in the middle of reading listening really to the autobiography of Malcolm X. And he said a delayed solution is a non-solution. So while the system keeps delaying the solution, I'm trying to figure out a solution because I won't allow them to go through the same broken system.
Right. That's very important, and I'm glad you touched on that. And so, it's important, and it would be wrong for us not to touch on it. With COVID-19 and its effect in the institutions all over the country, as a future educator, what is your concern about the current implication of COVID-19 and its effect on the education system?
Yeah, so many people talk about the achievement gap. I try to use Gloria Latson-Billings, who's a renowned educator. She called it the education debt. We are going to see an increase of the education debt in our society. So our most vulnerable, specifically our Black and Brown students who go to underserved and underrepresented school districts, are going to be behind come when we can do in-person learning of some sort. When the state decides to say, hey, we want you to take a standardized test, even though we know you've been cheated out of an education system, we're going to see that education debt increase. But I also understand that it's going to hurt families. We have families that are trying to help kids at home and try to work. But also in some circumstances, students are just being home alone, trying to log into Zoom and try to track the teacher and try to open a textbook. I'm in college and I still struggle with figuring out how to do online learning. So our K-12 students, we're going to see an education debt increase. But even more importantly, I think we're going to suffer. People in power like to talk about the economy. So I try to put education on the economy level. When our students are not educated, when they cannot think about the future, when we are not preparing students to be active citizens of our country, then our economy suffer. So for folks that like to say education doesn't matter, when folks that like to say, well, we need to focus on the economy, education and economy is tied together and we can't look at one without the other.
Right. Yes. And, preparing definitely goes hand in hand with the opportunity that is given within our community. And it starts with the opportunity that is given. So, and the topic of voting and the importance of, having that day, if not, this whole, I guess, following week. What is the significance of universities canceling classes on election day on, either your campus or just in general? And what do you think the action can do to influence the vote in the youth?
Yeah, just literally a few weeks ago, I actually put out a tweet calling out my very white institution to cancel classes on election day. I go to a very politically active university. My president is the former Secretary of Health and Human Services under Obama. And I sat down and said, well, we like to be so political. We like to say our university is for changing America. We like to say our folks are active citizens. Why are we not allowing them to be active citizens? For me, on one of the days that matter most. While politics don't change everything, politics allows the seat at the table to start discussing the changes that need to occur. So we called out that institution, my institution, American University, and we got a victory by having them cancel classes and actually pause university operations on election day. And it's this simple. Commissioner Sabir and Senator Vince Hughes talk very often about the need to have poll workers. With American University and other universities being virtual, allows people from the community to go sign up, specifically students who are traditionally more healthier and younger, who can also fight COVID if end up catching it. And God forbid that. Hopefully we're wearing masks like the doctor said, wearing masks and staying 6 feet apart, we can prevent that. But if we allow folks to go volunteer, or in Philly, you get paid to do election work now. You're not standing in line for 3 hours. We have senior citizens that are standing in line for 3 hours to vote. But also it allows us to not be rushed. Voting is something I believe you have to take time and actually do. You need to read about the candidates. When you get to the polling location and they start talking about, well, do this. Do we want to take out a bigger loan for the city? Do we want to office of victim services? Do we want a civilian police commission? All the way to, do we want to end stop and frisk? You need to understand what those questions mean. So you might take a little bit longer in those polling locations. And this isn't just for Democrat, Republican. While I'm hoping everybody is voting the way I'm voting, it is important that we ensure that young people in higher education are allowed to make their voices heard.
Yep. And you touched a little bit about policy. So I want you to elaborate more on that for people that don't fully understand what that means and the weight that it holds. So in your opinion, what can policy and how can policy affect the school system?
Policy can affect the school system in many ways. Our opening remarks were from Senator Vincent Hughes, it was a moment for me when I had to read the fair funding formula. And the senator knows the fair funding formula is kind of a game. The Republicans, let's call it out, let's say it straightforward. The Republicans said we're going to make a fair funding formula for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We had one before. They said, well, the Democrats are complaining about it. We need to change it. The way they changed it, though, is it is only for new generated revenues. Only for new generated revenues. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has not gained new generated revenues, at least for the last 4 to 8 years. Right. So we aren't gaining new revenues. Our funding is not being equitably distributed. So when we talk about those things, state testing is still a requirement. Keystones are technically still a requirement in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to graduate. While we do waive it every year, it is still on the books. My nonprofit is doing some work right now talking about reimagining or re-empowering the student representatives on school boards. Student reps can't vote. They just get to sit there and speak their truth, but don't actually get a vote on what's happening in their schools. So we're calling out the elected folks to change that. Policy is in politics. You got to vote. You can't complain if you don't vote. You can't go hit the streets and say you want Black Lives to Matter. You can't say you want stop and frisk to end if you aren't willing to vote. You can't say you want asbestos out of your schools if you're not there to vote, because we need folks like Senator Vince Hughes on a state level fighting in Harrisburg to tell these Republicans to get some sense. We need people like Representative Kenyana to tell these Republicans you actually got to wear a mask if you want businesses to open. And then you need people like Vice President Biden and Senator Harris in the White House implementing those federal requirements and appointing judges and folks that got some common sense to lead our country.
Come on now. Now, I would need to take it to the people that can't vote. You know, it could be for legal reasons. So for the younger generation, or just the generation in general who are not able to vote due to legal reasons, what are some ways that you would think they can still utilize their voice to spread the importance of voting and making a difference in their community in general?
Yeah, so I got active in politics at 16. I was not able to vote. I volunteered for now state representative Joanna McClinton. At the time, she was candidate Joanna McClinton, who holds the seat of the 191st Legislative District and is the first woman to ever hold the seat, and is the first Black woman to be the chairwoman of the Pennsylvania Democratic House of Representatives. So you can go volunteer. Let's start there. You can volunteer on campaigns. You can go join the City of Philadelphia Youth Commission if you're in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. You can launch a nonprofit if you want to. You and I have done it. It is, I'm not going to say it's easy, but you have support from us too that will actually help you go through it. But as well as the fact that you can go register people to vote. You can inform the people in your house, in your neighborhoods, of what's at stake at this election. Bring it to you. If we don't have in the future a Secretary of Education that actually cares about how we reopen schools, we're going to have to shut down schools again. Yeah. So you go knock on your neighbor door, and in my neighborhood, or at least when I was growing up, we have one neighbor that was always sick of the kids outside yelling. You go knock on that neighbor door and say, well, you voting right because you sick of me being outside all day. I can go back to school if you make sure these folks get in office. Yeah. So pitting it on that level, but as well as being an organizer, posting things, sharing messages, hitting the streets when you can with protesting while still wearing a mask and being as safe as possible. So doing all of those things, just because you can't vote doesn't mean you don't have power in this election cycle.
Yep. And I would just like to add, it's just really consistency, because regardless of how big or small your platform is, it is still a platform. And if it could touch somebody else to make a difference in any way, or it could touch somebody to move in any positive way, you're making a difference in your community. And so lastly, what advice would you have for individuals who want to make this change and want to, start stuff in their communities and just don't know how to start and what to utilize to get to there?
Yeah, I think one answer will never be enough with this one for me, but I will say, know where we came from. That is fundamentally important. Understand that when we talk about protesting, that we learned protesting, looting, and rioting from those who are now saying, oh, don't loot, don't protest, don't riot. Understand the system of finances and criminal justice is a way to hold power over Black and brown people. Understand that even when you don't have a seat at the table, and Shirley Chisholm said this, you bring a folding chair and demand your seat at the table. Definitely as a young person, I have, I don't know what's really going on up here anymore, but it's like a box cut / want to be twisted. When you have a haircut like this, when you are a Black person or a brown person and you sit at a table with sometimes your own folk, but oftentimes white folk, they will demean you and not say you are worthy to be at that table because you are too young, you have not lived, or you may not have experienced something. But at the end of the day, you have been through trials and tribulations. Even if you don't know your trials and tribulations, you have been through them, and you can share that experience of being a young person going into these schools that are underfunded, with teachers that don't look like us. You can share that message, and you can understand. And I'm gonna keep preaching Malcolm X. A delayed solution is a non-solution. So they have already had their seat at the table. Now it's time to bring some new folks to the table so that we can have a solution that's no longer delayed.
That's the one right there. Thank you so much for just being transparent and so willing to just speak up, and the work you're doing is truly inspiring, and you have, young people like me looking out to you and the work that you do. So thank you. And I will give it back to Adrienne so she could continue with the show.
Thank you guys for that. That was very powerful. If someone does not give you a chair, you bring a folding chair to that table. Like, if you don't have a voice, you bring your voice. We are going to move on to the next panelist. I'm going to introduce you to another one of my lovely co-hosts. Last but not least, we are going to introduce to you Nupal Kiazolu. So, Mayana, take the stage.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mayana Elise Mabry. I am a junior political science major on a pre-law track from Greenville, North Carolina. I am the founder and president of Politics, which is an organization that prides itself on community involvement and speaking up for the voiceless. I have the honor of introducing our next panelist, who is Nupal Kiazolu. Nupal Kiazolu is a powerhouse in the field of activism. From being on the front lines of the Charlottesville protests to taping "Do I Look Suspicious" behind her hoodie in the wake of Trayvon Martin's death, Nupal Kiazolu is an internationally recognized civil activist and organizer and Miss Liberia, USA. The Brooklyn native has been a leading voice among Generation Z, focusing on civil rights, domestic and sexual violence, and homelessness. When Nupal is not at Hampton University, striving to obtain her BA in political science, she's being recognized by Teen Vogue, DoSomething.org, Princeton University, and delivering speeches all around the world. Nupal is the first HBCU student to be a part of Teen Vogue's under 21, and she is also one of my dearest friends. Please help me welcome this inspiring young woman, Ms. Nupal Kiazolu.
Hey!
Nupal, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Blessed. I'm blessed. We're going to keep this real casual. I really do want to talk to you. We really just want to have some authenticity up in here. We know you can deliver. So first things first, I wanted to ask you, what motivated you to start speaking up on racial injustices and becoming the activist you are today?
Absolutely. I just noticed it was a little dark on my end. But my push into activism was the tragic murder of Trayvon Martin back in 2012. And my journey was basically, long story short, because the story is a little bit long, but when Trayvon Martin was killed, I came up with this idea to go to school the following day with a gray hoodie on and this message taped to my back: do I look suspicious? And I had Skittles and iced tea in my hand to represent what Trayvon Martin had in his hand at the time that he was murdered. At the time, I was in the South, in Georgia, in a predominantly white middle school. So, of course, this caused a lot of controversy. And the staff at my school felt like I was being too political. Nonetheless, I persisted. And the following day, when I was written up for suspension because I came back to school with the same messaging and with Skittles and iced tea, I went to my math teacher, who happened to be my only ally at the time. And I told her, I was like, yo, Miss Gibbs, like, I'm about to get suspended. This is what it is. And this woman literally risked her career by marching down to the principal's office with me in solidarity. And we debated back and forth with my principal. And instead of suspending me, my principal told me to go home, do my research, and have my case ready for him the following day. And that's exactly what I did. When I got home, I looked up my rights as a middle school student. I looked up my First Amendment rights. And then I came across the Supreme Court case, Tinker versus Des Moines, which in short established the right for students to peacefully organize within school grounds. And that was the focal point of my argument the following morning. Once again, my math teacher was right there with me, standing side by side. And I ended up winning the case. By the time we got out of his office, it was lunchtime. My teacher and I went over to the cafeteria, and literally every single student in there had their hoodies on with the same exact message taped to their back. And my teacher and I just stood there and cried. And that's when I knew that being an activist and organizer was my calling. And ever since, I haven't stopped.
That was, wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So you are an A+ student. You are a traveling activist. You're in a lot of organizations. You're Miss Liberia USA. You're an older sister. And you're so much more. So how have you been able to manage all that you do on a daily basis during this global pandemic?
Wow, that's a really great question. The most important thing for me is time management, because I juggle so many different things day to day, and I definitely am not able to do all of this by myself. I have help. I have an amazing team that's standing with me and make sure that my schedule is intact and they stay on top of me. Like, shout out to my publicist, Ebonika. She's about to be 20 years old. She's a young person, but she is more than capable of fulfilling her tasks, and she exceeds them as a young Black woman in the PR space. So shout out to her. So yeah, I definitely time management, my team, and really just keeping my goals at the forefront.
Okay, love that response. So we've seen you on the front lines of protests, traveling across the country to lead these protests and use your platform positively to warn supporters of the importance of Black Lives Matter. What would be the advice that you would give to those who look up to you and who want to be involved in this movement, but they cannot physically attend these protests?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, there is not one way to be an activist or organizer. in this movement, people play many different roles and they are all equally important. So you may not be able to be on the front lines because first and foremost, we are in the middle of a pandemic. So even being on the front lines right now is a privilege. I am a young, able-bodied woman, and that's able to be on the front lines and travel. And of course, I take the necessary precautions to stay safe. But again, like, everyone does not have that privilege to be out here right now. So just because you can't make it to the front lines does not mean that in any other way you can contribute is not valuable. Whether you can donate to us, you can donate PPE right now. That is something that is definitely needed in these times. You can cook for us, like you can bring us some food because we get hungry out there. You can bring us some water. Like, there are so many different ways. If you sing, you can sing. If you dance, you can dance to keep the spirits up. Like, there are just so many different ways. And even social media. Social media has played a pivotal role into progressing this movement, right? Like, Gen Z has been able to use social media. Black Gen Z organizers have used platforms like Twitter and Instagram to galvanize millions of people around the world and create the largest civil rights movement, not in just US history, but world history. So there's so many different ways that you can use your platform. And as my dear friend Yordi stated before, you have a platform, whether you have 10 followers or 10,000 followers, you have a platform and somebody is going to see that. So make sure that you are responsible with your platform and using it to amplify the issues that impact us the most. I think her signal may have. Can everyone hear me? Because it's, okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, it seems like we're having some technical difficulties, so give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
She will be right back on the stream.
No problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, guys, we are back with Mayana. I'm gonna bring her back on.
Okay. I am so sorry. It just went out last minute. I don't know what happened. This is like Hampton's Wi-Fi. But I caught the last of your sentence, and I wanted to mention you protesting and, you know, the purpose behind most of the protests, which is to advocate for Black Lives Mattering. So recently, there has been a plethora of senseless murders committed by police officers on the Black community. In your honest opinion, do you believe that our law enforcement system can be reformed?
That is a great question. So first, I'd like to start off by saying I was a person that once believed, you know, police reform was possible. And, you know, we throw in like these laws that I now consider breadcrumbs and don't really hit the grunt of the issue. Like, they don't really do anything. These laws that a lot of people advocate for really don't have any teeth. And as I went on throughout my journey in activism in this space, especially after I was arrested in Louisville, Kentucky for nonviolently protesting the death of Breonna Taylor, while I was sitting in that jail cell, I just came to a realization that this system cannot be reformed. And until we come to a conclusion that, you know, convicting one officer or a group of officers in one singular case, if we keep believing that that will bring us justice as a system, then we're not going to go anywhere, because convicting those 3 or 4 officers is not going to change the entire system. Yes, it's needed, but we also have to look at this issue in a deeper sense. I personally am an abolitionist. I don't believe that the system that we have right now can be reformed, and the only solution for that is to abolish it. Now, let me explain what that means in simple terms.
Okay.
What abolition means, literally, to abolish something is to get rid of something that does not work and replace it with something that does. We abolish things every single day. If I don't like that sandwich, I'm going to abolish it. I'm going to throw it in the trash. A lot of us are young adults. We have abolished many relationships. You know, there are just so many. There are so many. It's not rocket science. Like, now I know the word abolish is very provocative, and a lot of people think that, you know, if we abolish the system, that means like complete anarchy. No, that's not what I'm advocating for. I'm not advocating for anarchy. What I'm saying is the system that we have right now by design is not working for Black people, right? It was never doing that. And I try to stray away from saying the system is broken, because it was intentionally designed to oppress us. So it's working in the way that it should be. It's working for white folks. It's working for white supremacists. It's working for capitalists, and to continue this cycle of oppression, but it's never worked in the interests of Black people. And that's by design. So overall, to answer your question, I definitely believe as a community, we have to reimagine what public safety looks like. And key words, the system as we know it is not working. And that's why we must deconstruct and reconstruct it as a whole.
I love that response. As an abolitionist, in your opinion, like, what is the most pressing issue in this country that you would like to see change with this political system? Was it law enforcement or like?
Yeah. So, just to double down on everything I was saying and add to it, policing is just the tip of the iceberg, right? There are so many different systemic levels of oppression that we are facing every single day as a community, whether it be disenfranchisement in the educational sector, which Tamir greatly touched on right before me, and really gave us perspective into how this educational system disenfranchises us as a collective. Also, in the financial area, Black economics is a hot topic right now, and how it impacts us. This system impacts us surrounding economics. Health-wise, the healthcare system, with Black women dying at alarming rates every single day in the hands of this healthcare system we have right now. So there are so many different levels to this system that encompass the oppression that we are facing today. And we really have to look into every single area and figure out ways that we can combat the issues that are affecting us right now. So that's what I would say, like, as an abolitionist, as an activist. I mean, like, we really just have to, as a community, take our power back, for one, because the power belongs within the people, and come up with solutions to really, really change our reality right now.
That, woo, girl, you was dropping some gems. I got a notebook full of notes right here. So you said the power is with the people.
Yes.
And there we have so much power that we don't know about. And so when it comes to voting, I feel like that privilege or that opportunity or that civil duty or responsibility is just such a powerful thing. But a lot of people just during this 2020 election are very skeptical to do so. So many young people don't really want to vote for Biden or Harris based off of their past policies. But many young people don't want to vote for Trump and Pence because in our minds, we think we can't take another 4 years of this. You feel me? So what advice would you give to those young people who are conflicted and hesitant to even vote in this election?
So to the people that say our votes doesn't matter, our votes don't matter, I always say to them, if our votes didn't have any power or mattered, there wouldn't be so many systems in place to oppress them. And I just want to say that again so people can hear me. If our votes did not matter, there wouldn't be so many systems in place to oppress them. So, of course, many people right now, we may not have the ideal candidate, but it's far beyond a singular person or candidates. Right now, we are voting for policies that will impact our everyday lives and the trajectory of this country moving forward for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So it's more than just voting for Joe Biden or voting for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris or Mike Pence. This is far beyond that. And I'd also like to highlight that, yes, although the presidential election is important, local politics matter so much more. Like our local elections literally impact our daily lives. For example, the Attorney General has been a hot topic because of the tragic case of Breonna Taylor. That's somebody that we elect. That is the Attorney General, somebody that has to be on the ballot and voted into office. Our city council people, our state Congress representatives, like there is so much that encompasses what electoral politics looks like. And unfortunately, a lot of us have been miseducated to believe that the only elections that matter are the presidential elections. So that's why I came up with my national campaign, Vote 2000, back in 2017 to combat that miseducation and also to get young people of color and Black folks registered to vote, and also educate them on the civic and electoral politics of this country, and really taking a keen interest on how local politics impact us the most.
So many young Black voters did not vote in 2016. Actually, statistically, about 765,000 Black Americans didn't.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
My computer, I need.
Okay.
Need a charger. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Because my computer goes dead really fast and it was charging, but yeah, now it's 1 second. Sorry, y'all. This is like the reality of the virtual life. Now we are back to business.
So I said that, many Black voters did not vote in 2016. So I said about 765,000 Black Americans didn't vote. And look at us now. So how can we convince Black people, our people, to take voting more seriously?
Okay, so that question definitely encompasses a lot of issues that our community faces when it comes to voting. But I definitely think that this issue surpasses convincing someone to vote. We also have to look at the systemic barriers that prevent people from voting. And we have to look back at our educational system. And it really, when it comes to learning about how to properly function in a democracy, a lot of that stems back to your education, to your classroom, right? And civics have been taken out of many inner city schools across this country. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I can tell you, throughout my experience in Brooklyn, I have never had a civics course. And when I talk to people that come from wealthier communities or predominantly white communities, they're like, oh, like civics, that's just like a regular thing, right? And unfortunately, having access to a course like that has become a privilege. So it's like, you talk to Black and brown folks that come from impoverished communities or disenfranchised communities, and we're like, you have to vote. And like a lot of times we only see these people during the cycles of election. We never see them when we're like everyday gun violence. Like, for example, in my community, I don't really see elected officials coming out when there's a shooting, but people come to us when it's time to vote, when they want us to cast that ballot.
Right.
So it's like, you can't really expect us to come up with sustainable solutions if we don't even have one of the most important steps to that, which is education on the topics that matter the most. And right now we're talking about voting. So we really have to advocate for civics to be reinstated within inner city schools all across this country, but also humanizing these people, right? Not just looking at them as a ticket on a ballot. Like, you really have to come to these people from a perspective like, yo, listen, I talk to these people every single day. You see the issues X, Y, and Z that are impacting us. Voting is a step into how you can change that. And I always tell people that voting is the door, not the destination, right? we have to stay on our elected officials like white on rice. So a vote just won't change every single thing. And we also have to stray away from that narrative that an elected official is going to be our savior or a policy is going to be our savior. No, we are going to be the ones to save ourselves. That's why we have to come together as a community. That's why we have to continuously put the pressure on these folks in office and let them know that you will be held accountable if you are not doing right by us. In the same way that we put you in that office is the same way we can take you out if you are not doing what you swore to do. So again, voting is just the first step. We have to create a culture of accountability surrounding elected officials so they know that if they are not fulfilling the tasks that they promised throughout their campaign, they will not have another seat up. They will not have a seat in the re-election, and we will not stand by and watch our communities go to waste because they're not doing what they swore to do. So 1, holding your elected officials accountable. 2, voting being the door, not the destination. And 3, really just educating folks and advocating for different things that would help our community be engaged and more involved in electoral politics. But we definitely have to stray away from the narrative of blaming Black people for not voting when there are so many systems in place that disenfranchise that.
New Paul, you came up here and you did what you had to do, because I'm really like writing quotes down. Voting is the door, not the destination. I'm gonna have to quote you. That's gonna be my steer quote for Hampton. Wow, I'm just listening. Like you are my inspiration. Like, oh my gosh, like yeah. I'm going to ask one last question. It's a 2-part question. Bring it back to Adrian. So the first part of the question is, where do you see the future of our country in these times? Then the second part is, what life lesson have you learned like during this pandemic?
So the first question was, where do I see this country?
Where do you see the future of this country in these times?
Okay. So that is a heavy question, but what I will say, I am inspired. This movement, this new uprising has been the singular most inspiring thing I could have ever dedicated my life to and been a part of. I have seen people from all around the country and all around the world come together in the name of Black liberation, racial equity, healthcare justice, social justice, climate justice, for various causes to make this world and country a better place. So my hope for this country, 100% resides within the people, because the people have been continuously showing up and taking back their power. So I have hope for the future, regardless of how this election may go. All of my faith does not reside within 2 candidates. My hope resides within the people, and the people united will never be divided. And we are showing that collectively every single day how much the power belongs within us. And we wouldn't even gotten this far if we really didn't take a stand again for what we believe in. So I just want people to be inspired by the work of organizers, particularly Black organizers all across this country and this world, that have been doing the necessary work on the front lines and behind the scenes and in between to make sure that we are going in the direction that we're supposed to be going in as a nation and a world. So I have hope. I have hope for this country. And one of the most valuable things I've learned throughout this pandemic, man, don't take anything for granted, right? Like, you know, we spent our entire lives having access to outside and being able to step outdoors with no face mask. And, you know, if everything was quote unquote normal, when everything was normal, we never envisioned that we'd be where we are right now. So not taking the everyday privileges for granted that we have, even to just breathe clean air. So, you know, just like really being grateful for everything that you do have. I definitely have always been someone that was full of gratitude, but this pandemic has really intensified, you know, the things that I hold dear to my heart. So like my friends, my family, my folks in my circle, like you, I am immensely grateful for all of you guys, and I love y'all. And I'm just so happy to be a part of this event today. And I just want to stress to y'all to please show up and vote on November 3rd. My voting plan is I'm bringing at least 5 people to the polls with me, family and friends. And I'm also going to be volunteering there at the polls because I understand how voter suppression impacts our communities, especially poor Black and brown communities. So if you are able-bodied and you have the capacity, please try to volunteer in some shape or form on November 3rd and prior to that. And yeah, like, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you for being a panelist. You really enlightened me. You know, you're my friend, but it's still like, I still love learning from you, you know, and you are setting the example. You
Thank
are
you.
the standard.
That's all. Shout out to these amazing organizers. You guys are absolutely inspiring. Hamptonians, shout out to Hamptonians. You guys are amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. You have a blessed evening.
You
bring
too.
it back to Adrian.
Wow, that was amazing. Like, Nepal really set the stage on fire. Like, are you guys hot? Because I am. But enough with the corny jokes. So, last but not least, we're going to move to closing this out. So I am going to bring my co-host back up, and we are going to give the closing statements. Whew. Nina, you hot?
It was a lot of heat brought today. It was a lot of heat.
I'm going to bring up Jordy next.
Boy, that was an event. That was the one.
It gave it to give.
That was it.
Mayana,
I'm
how you feel about that?
Speechless. Very proud.
All right, now, so we are going to start with Miss Nina Pinto, and she is going to pass the torch on to the rest of the girls.
Oh my goodness. I think this event, if you did not walk away with something from this event, I don't think you was listening, and I think that you need to rewatch it back, from healthcare to education to the political activism and spectrum. After this, I'm so excited to vote on November 3rd. Y'all need to get out to the polls. There is so much on the line. We have to go. It's go time. I loved it. I'm trying to think. Who should I pass it off to? Let's pass it to Mariana. Boom.
Okay, hi, Kenyana. I'm just really honored, first and foremost, to be a co-host for this event. It is a beautiful event. I gained much insight as to what I should do because the job is not done, you know. And even though I have voted, I still have to use my voice and my platform to educate my audience to vote. And I'm not going to be satisfied until they vote or until they pass on the plate to encourage their friends to vote. It's a cycle, you know, and it's just amazing that all of us are a part of it. And I just really love this event. One thing that I took away was actually from Senator Hughes when he said, let's not lose our voice. Let's not lose our voice. Let's use our voice. And that just really resonated with me because
that's the one.
That's the one. Like I just really felt that on a personal level, and it just inspires me to continue to do the work. And I hope it inspired you guys. And I'm just, again, grateful for this opportunity to co-host with such amazing ladies, to interview Miss Nupal Kiazolu, and it's time to work. It's time to work. So, Miss Giordano.
Well, lastly, this event to me just opened up not only my mind but just my heart, because I think not only do you have to be willing from you know just your actions, you have to be willing from the heart, and we need all the heart possible right now from everybody, from the youth. It's our turn, it's our generation to really put effort and put action towards those amazing people that are working so hard at the front right now. Nupal, to Mayor, Senator, everyone. I can truly say that I can walk away with learning one thing, if not more, from everything that you have dropped to us and the sister doctors. Everything that you have said was so significant and so important. And I just want to emphasize the fact that community, the work within our community is significant. It's important. We need to focus on that. We need to focus on that light, as well as, you know, pointing fingers outside of the community, because it all starts at home. Training starts at home. And once we get that, and once we have that in order, then we can push forward with the idea of what it means to have a structure within our community. But until then, we won't see the change we want, because we don't have the power to do it right now. So the power is your voice. The power is your vote, and go out there and utilize it, and just be you. Just go out there and utilize your platform. I'm so proud of everyone, and I just love y'all so much. Thank you for having me, Adrian.
And that's on period.
And I am going to cue the senator up now, and he is going to give his last remarks before we sign out.
Yay.
What's up, family? What's up, family? Y'all like, you know, up here, okay? Up here, up at the top. I'm telling you, woo, Lord have mercy. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. I said in the chat to the doctors, how proud I am of you all.
Wow.
You all give us hope. Okay, those of us who've been doing this for a bit, you all give us hope. And I'm so very proud of you all. And I am blessed to have been able to have been a part of this. While it was going on, when you put me in the holding room, my wife hit me up, okay, on the thing, okay? And she said, and I was told what I was doing. And, you know, Adrian, in case you haven't told everybody, all right, my wife is used to be known as Moesha's mama, okay, Shirley Ralph, all right? And she said, I said, these kids are fantastic. She said, well, get all of their phone numbers, because you need them working for you, okay? So there you go, all right? That's an official offer to all of y'all, all right? So you know, you have done, yep. There's jobs after Hampton, okay? Get it down, all right? I'm not joking either. Just a couple things I want you to know. First of all, understand your power. Understand how much power you have. You have a huge amount of power, and far too many times we undervalue ourselves. All right? We undervalue as individuals, but we undervalue the power that we have. All right? Please understand you have more power than you think you have. And there are folks who have basically designed it that way for you to think you don't have any power. Okay? But the truth is you do. Understand that. All right? And then, of course, utilize that. Now, in the next couple of days, it's about an election. And your power in this election is to keep talking, keep letting folks know what's going on, what the deal is, and bringing other folks to the election, helping them to vote. And you're going to have some folks, and I knew you already running into them, say, well, you know, I mean, come on, man. What's it going to mean? What's it going to matter? You know, they all the same. They all the same. No. There's always choices, all right? And in this case, we need to be real clear, especially at the top of the ticket. We have the philosophy and the actions of white supremacy literally operating in the White House.
Right.
And they're utilizing all the tools available to them, the power of this nation, the power of this government, the power to give and to take at their fingertips. And they're utilizing it to promote that mindset economically, healthcare. My God, what they did to those 545 families, where they separated the children and now can't find their parents. All right. So understand your power. We have there are clear choices. They may not be the perfect choice. All right. And let's be clear, none of us will ever experience again, you're all too young to have felt this, will ever experience what we experienced when we elected Barack Obama as the first Black president of the United States. Never gonna feel that again. Maybe close should a young lady, a brown chick from California, all right, happen to ascend, okay, you know what I'm saying, okay, then we might be able to get that done. But understand your power. You have real significant power, the power to change minds and the power to change reality and the power to change outcomes, all right? It's one thing, all right? Up and down the ballot, make sure you're voting for, and Tamir said this, make sure you're voting at the top of the ticket, but at the bottom of the ticket as well. Your state reps, your state senators, they control, if education funding is your thing, they control education funding. We control education funding, and all state legislators, we have that power. It doesn't necessarily come out of Washington, but it definitely comes out at the state legislature. That's hugely important, all right? Tamir talked about this, all right? Understand your power, take your hill. All right. Sometimes you're not always going to be able to organize into a big organization and what have you, but I'm going to come back to this technology. So take your own hill, wherever you all are, just take your own hill. Okay. But then let someone else know that that's what you're doing, because the strength comes in that connectivity of knowing this one is doing, well, if that one's doing this, I can do it like that. And if that one is doing this, I can do it like that. All right. So take your own hill. And because of the technology platforms that you have, this StreamYard, Zoom, and all the rest of them, okay, you can let everybody know what you're doing. All right. And then you can get extra strength to help you do your thing or learn a lesson about how to accomplish a mission that someone else is doing over on the other side. And they could be doing it a million miles away, but the technology allows that connectivity. All right. So take your hill, whatever hill that may be, you take yours. I got this hill right here. That's the one I'm going to take. People are organizing for after, and I'm going to finish up here. People are already organizing for after November 3rd. Okay. In case some nonsense goes down. All right, y'all picking up what I'm putting down, right?
Yeah.
In case some nonsense goes down, in case there's some thievery or thuggery, all right, people are organizing for that now. Just to give you a sense of what to think about after November 3rd, I want you to go and check out a movie. It's about 90 minutes, all right, called Recount. And Recount is the movie about what happened in 2000 in the election of Bush versus Gore. You remember the phrase hanging chads, okay? All right? When they were literally counting ballots, paper ballots, all right? And it was huge legal struggles, and it wound up being a decision about the Supreme Court chose really the president. That'll be happening in about 14 different states all around the country. Then it was in Florida, just one state. Okay. But Nina, I see you rubbing your head. That's okay. But see, we didn't have Zoom and all this back then.
Oh, true.
Okay. So we got this now. All right. So we can make that hookup. We can make that connection. All right. We can school people. This is what's coming. This is what's coming. But see that movie so you know what's coming after November 3rd. All right. So your vote is your voice. As I said on the front end, people are spending billions of dollars and utilizing every apparatus of government and the courts. This is why they rushed that woman through so quickly to be the Supreme Court justice. And just so that you know her history, she was one of the lawyers writing legal briefs back in 2000 in Bush versus Gore.
Okay. Connected.
Oh, yeah.
It's connected.
Yeah.
Picking up what I'm putting down. So that's her DNA. That's where she comes from. She was writing legal briefs for the Republicans back then. And, you know, this is how they do. This is how they do. You know, I got good talent with that one. We're going to keep an eye on her. Okay. All right. And over the years, all right. And they want her in there now in case any of these, their legal challenges in the election that would wind up at the Supreme Court. She would be the deciding decision maker. So that's what that point is. So just understand, your vote is your voice. Don't lose your voice by losing your vote. All right. It is now election time. All right. The philosophizing is coming to an end. We have clear choices right in front of us. We have to be mature voters. All right. These are the choices. This is the history. White supremacy in the White House or no white supremacy in the White House. I think that's kind of simple. Okay. All right. Fundamental. Okay. But we could go on and on and on and on. But y'all got it. Y'all know what to do. Just keep it up. Just keep it up and stay in touch. Stay in touch.
All right. Thank you so much, Senator.
Love y'all. Love y'all.
Love you. You too.
Well, thank you all for staying to the end. I hope that you left with some more wisdom and understanding and the fuel to lead in your communities, because everyone has a space in the movement. Thank you to our wonderful guests, State Senator Vincent Hughes, Dr. Delana Wardlaw, and Dr. Elena McDonald, Representative Malcolm Kenyana, and our Powerhouse Youth duo, Tamir D. Harper and Nicole Chiazzola. Remember that it is 9 days to election day. The fight is not over, and if you didn't get anything else from this event, remember that our well-being is on the ballot. Plan to vote early or on November the 3rd. And last, not only vote, but utilize your voice. As Nepal Chiazzola said, voting is not the door, it is the destination. Good night, everyone. Signing off.
Bye.